Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Definitely Talking podcast. My name is Shanna Groves. I'm also known online as Lip Reading Mom. Very excited to welcome our two special guests for Season 1 episode, or excuse me, Season 2, Episode 1. I will start with Julie. Julie DeMateo-Lane has a sensory neurodegenerative congenital hearing loss that was detected when she was 3.5 years old. Then she began wearing hearing aids at age 4. She's been an advocate for herself ever since. As an adult, she has a master's in special education with a focus on autism advocacy. And she also has an interest in navigating the judicial system for adults with disabilities. Julie, as well as our second guest, Brad McKenna, are both members of the Hearing Loss Association of America, Boston, Massachusetts chapter, HLAA, and they are both involved with leadership for HLAA Boston. Next, we have Brad McKenna. Brad did not pass his first hearing test at age 5, and he didn't get his first hearing aids until age 23. When he was in his 30s, he segued into a job as a technology librarian. So he is definitely someone who embraces technology. He also self-identifies as hard of hearing, and he has become a resource for people to learn about hearing loss and hearing aid technology. He is the technology director for HLAA Boston chapter and hopes to be a bridge between HLAA and libraries to serve the deaf and hard of hearing community. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, we are going to start with Julie. Now, both of you, your relationship, besides the HLAA Boston chapter, is you are the founders of a company called Down the Tubes Productions, which I'm going to have you elaborate more on the multifaceted work that
Thank
you
you.
do with this website, but you are amazing. You have a podcast,
Yeah.
you review books, you have blogs, you do advocacy presentations in the community, and you have merchandise. Oh my God. So you are all over the place. Julie, why don't you tell me how you got involved with advocacy and
Sure.
working in the hearing loss community?
Absolutely. So I always think back to when I was in first grade. So I'm the only person in my family, a very large family with hearing loss. And there's a lot of us. And there have been subsequent generations of us with no hearing loss popping up. So I'm always been the only one. And my parents knew from a very young age that it was really important to help me find my voice and be able to confidently use that voice to ensure that the environment changes for me, not me having to change for the environment. And the example I give is in first grade, coming home from the first day of school in tears because I couldn't hear my teacher because of where I was seated alphabetically. And I'll never forget my dad looking right at me and saying, "Okay, well, what are you going to do?" And we rehearsed at dinner the words I could use to go back into first grade, 6 years old,
Yeah.
and say to my teacher, "I need to move my seat." That was a gift that my parents gave me that I desperately want to give every other person that is deaf or hard of hearing or struggling with a disability or a learning difference to find that voice. We are valued. Our participation is absolutely imperative.
Hmm.
We should not be left on the sidelines because we are not sure the language to use or have the confidence or the self-worth and know our value and our ability to participate in everything regardless. And a simple accommodation usually solves a lot of that.
Sure.
So from that point, that's what motivated me to not only become a special education teacher because I understood what it was like to be a special education student. And I'm able to give my advocacy skills to my students. I help their parents advocate for their kids. And now I've taken it to the deaf and hard of hearing community.
Wow. How many years have you been teaching, Julie?
30. This is my 30th school year.
My
Special education, K through 5. Yep. Best job ever. It's the best. I laugh all day.
much respect, much respect. I taught
Thank you.
special education for 7 years, and
Yep.
I'm no longer in that profession. It's a lot of work, but I have
Yep.
such respect for you and
Thank you.
all
Thank you.
that you have probably more than accomplished in
Thank
three
you.
decades with your students and your families.
Thank you.
And so I
That's great.
love the story you also shared about
Yeah.
what your dad taught you about
Yeah.
self-advocacy at the dinner table, which I'm going to now turn over to Brad.
Mhm.
Brad, you had a little bit of a different experience with embracing your hearing loss. Can you tell me more? It was detected when you were 5,
Yeah.
but it was several years before you got assistance for your hearing loss. Explain how all of that worked.
Right. So my hearing loss, unlike Julie, comes from my father's side. So my entire father's side has hearing loss. But unlike Julie's family, we didn't talk about it. The stigma was just too great. So I grew up ha needing hearing aids but not getting it. And it wasn't until I was 23 where I moved from a data center to a quiet cube farm, and I couldn't hear my coworkers in the next cube. And so I knew it was only a matter of time that I would need them. And so at 23, I ended up finally getting my first set of hearing aids. But I still didn't advocate for myself because I was able to get by. I mean, I worked in IT at the time, and so like every communication was through email. So I tell people this
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
Now is a great time to be deaf or hard of hearing because so much communication is now text-based
Right.
and not over the phone or not in person. And so I was afforded the opportunity, if you want to say that, to kind of bluff for another like almost decade before until I changed careers to libraries, and I continued to do it for a while, where like I just wouldn't advocate for myself
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't comfortable doing it. And then COVID, right? I mean, COVID changed everything, and so I literally couldn't do my job because I have a lot of trouble on the phone. And before the library opened to patrons, we were doing curbside delivery, and that was all on the phone. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do my job. So I had to start asking for accommodations. And that's why, like, I love being able to do our show together because we have the same struggles, but hearing loss is so personal.
Yes.
Like,
Mm.
your history, your personality really informs how you are an advocate. And so you have two different examples here.
Yeah.
But now that I've started, I'm becoming more confident in myself and my worth to speak up
Mm-hmm.
and ask for what I need. But as a librarian, as I'm doing that in tandem, I'm teaching others, my patrons that I talk to about hearing loss. Like, this is what you need to ask your audiologist.
Mm-hmm.
This is the speech to text app, stuff like that. So there's so much hearing assisted technology that I can lean on that as literally
Mm-hmm.
part of my job because some of my job is tech help sessions where like someone can book an hour of my time and we go over whatever they need me to. And since I've been more open about my hearing loss, people have come to me about hearing aids, and it's been great to be able to stop that stigma that stopped me from advocating for myself for decades of my life and other people.
Right. And I love what you said, Brad, about we all have the same struggles, but
Mhm.
our hearing loss is personal.
Right.
And
Very true.
Julie's journey was one where she didn't have anyone in her family who could identify with being deaf or hard of hearing. However,
Mm-hmm.
she was taught early on to
Mm-hmm.
self-advocate.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad, you did
Right.
have a family history of hearing loss,
Right.
but were not told you need to self-advocate.
Right.
You had to learn that through your life and your career. I can totally relate with you, Brad, 100%.
Yeah.
My dad's family also is where my hearing loss
Mhm.
comes from, and he was not hard of hearing, but he
Sure.
several relatives were that I never
Mhm.
saw. So there was no contact with anyone who
Right.
could teach me how to self-advocate, and have that opportunity like Julie did
Mhm.
to be vocal about it and embrace it. So I applaud you for stepping in, and you are the one that's breaking the cycle of stigma
Hope so.
for future generations of your family. You're influencing them,
Hmm.
you're influencing your community. And Julie, you've been doing that
Yeah,
with your students and your
very
families,
much so.
teaching
Thank
them
you.
that, like, hey, it's okay to have a
Yep.
disability.
Right.
We just have to learn how to accommodate ourselves and accommodate each other.
Yep.
Which one of you wants to answer this question? I want to know more about how you got started with Down the Tubes
Mhm.
Productions. So if one of you can explain to me how it started and what all you can find on your website.
So we got started. It started at a 4th of July
Right.
barbecue. It was the most random meeting ever in the July of 2024. So it hasn't been full 2 years of our work yet, where we were sitting in a crowded room. The party had moved inside, and we hadn't really spoken to each other at all. And there was so much crosstalk that it was really hard for either one of us to
Yeah.
understand the conversation. And at the same time, we just turned towards each other because we knew the other one had hearing aids and did
Hmm.
this. That was it.
Yeah.
That's literally how it started. So we started talking,
Yeah.
and within like 40 minutes or
Yeah.
something ridiculous, we started saying we should collaborate on
Yeah.
something. We didn't know quite yet what that something was going to be. So we met on July 10th. We had our first
Mhm.
planning meeting, and our first episode came out August 2nd. And it started as just our weekly YouTube series and then morphed into our weekly blog posts. Those topics are often different than the YouTube web series. Then we moved to TikTok and Instagram and Facebook Reels and
Yeah.
posts, which is content that's somewhat connected to our other topics, but often very different and very in the
Mhm.
moment. And we are launching a merch store, which is on its way out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
ready to go. We're going to do
Mhm.
some posts on that.
You've got,
And
yes, you had some clothing and
Yep.
some mugs and some really
very
cute
cute
stickers
stuff
with
with our
pug dogs.
logos. Yeah, with our dogs, our Boston Terriers are on it. And we also do
Yeah.
presentations, both locally and nationally. We do hybrid Zoom and in person. So if anyone out there is looking for anybody to talk to their HR department, give us an email. So yeah, that's how it happened. It was a very
Organic.
thank you. That's the
Mhm.
word. It was very organic, kind of meant to be kind of thing, I
Mhm.
guess, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think? Can we add on to that?
I don't know. The stars aligned or something because like I'm not talkative. I don't like being on camera. I'm a big introvert. I'm shy. I prefer the writing. But that's why it works, right? Is we bring different things to the table
Right,
about the same topic. And
right.
so we wanted to start talking, have the conversation going. Like we
Hmm.
pick a topic around hearing loss, crowded parties, the car, the beach, stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Mhm.
And we give our perspectives of it and how we deal with it with our hearing loss. Because as we mentioned earlier, it's so personal and we usually have different answers for the things. And we just want to get people talking.
Yep.
We want to get people talking about hearing loss and share their strategies because we know that we don't have the only answers. And we love to give other people a chance to share what works for them as well.
Our big mission is we always say we want to inform,
Hmm.
educate, and entertain
Yeah.
those with and without hearing loss about what life is like with hearing loss. And it's been really telling that many of our friends and family and even coworkers have
Yes.
said, I've known you for 20 years and I never thought about that. I never realized how difficult that was for you, or I never realized that you needed to ask for XYZ. So that's kind of how it happened. It's been a great adventure.
Hmm. It has.
Yes, so 4th of July gathering, and
Yeah.
here we are 2 years later, not
Not
even
Yep.
2 years
not
Not
later,
even.
even. Nope.
and you have branched into all of these different social media and blog and podcast presence. So where can people find your website?
So it's dttproductions.com. And so what we have there is we have everything. So you don't have to search out each individual repository. So there's a link to the YouTube
Mhm.
videos, to our TikTok, to our blogs, to the podcast, which in full disclosure, the podcasts are just me stripping the audio out of the
Audio.
video. So it's not two different
Right.
things.
Yep.
But we need to go where people are. And so I
Right.
think you had somebody comment to you is like, I like your show, but I want to download it and listen to it while I'm on a jog. You
Right.
can't do that with YouTube. So I guess you could, but it might be dangerous.
And then we have our merch store,
Yep.
Patreon,
Yep.
presentation options,
Collaborations because we
collaborations.
have a bunch of stuff. So everything is on that website, just like one-stop shopping.
I love that. I love that. Okay, well, we are going to end with a fun question.
All right.
And you all have such a great sense of humor. Hopefully, we can add some humor to this question.
Sure.
This is something new for season two of Definitely Talking. And we're going to end each episode with what I call a big three question.
Okay.
You have to answer a question in a series of three words, items, etc. And the number three comes from, if anyone can see, there's photos behind me of my three adorable children when they were very,
That's
very
awesome.
young. And they're all grown up now. So
Yeah.
three is the magic number.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to
I
start
love
with
that.
you, Julie.
Okay.
The question for the big three for you today is, how would you define hearing loss in three words?
First, invisible for many of us. At least for me, my hair is usually down. You don't see my hearing aids. And when I present myself, it's not necessarily the first thing you're thinking of that I have a hearing loss because I don't sign, I use speech, things like that. So I find it can be very invisible for people. The second is it's pervasive. It impacts every aspect of my life. From the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed. So, for example, when I wash my hair, my hearing loss is getting in the way because if my hair is wet, I can't put my hearing aids in.
Hmm.
So then we're drying it, then we're straightening it. So that's like 40 minutes of the world that I'm missing in my house of no sound. Right until I go to bed, I have to take them out, put them in the case, hope that there's no emergency in the house, and drift off to sleep. So it's pervasive in every single area. And the third point I make is that it's aggressive. And I say that in the sense that I am aggressive about my hearing loss. And I hope that others take
Mm,
that example and run with it because you can be assertive and
right.
aggressive in a way that's not offensive or chew in your face, but take that energy and make sure that you are getting what you need in every single environment you are in. You should not be sitting on the sidelines.
Love it. Love it. Okay, your turn, Brad.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be as good as her,
Oh,
but
stop it.
so my first word is personal, like we've been saying multiple times in this show, right? Everybody has different levels of hearing loss and they go about their hearing loss in different ways. So it's a personal thing. It's definitely misunderstood because I
Oh,
don't think
yeah,
people
good one.
realize how much it affects us and when it
Hmm.
affects us and how it affects us. And so if people think about it at all, I think they don't always understand it. And my third one is omnipresent, right? It's everywhere. Like Julie was saying,
Right.
it's every minute of every part of our day is affected by our hearing loss. So yeah, so those are my three. I know you probably hoping for funny, and we didn't deliver on that, so we apologize. But it's fun. It was a challenge to come up with these words and not be too lectury or anything, and be
Right.
honest about it, right? Because I mean, these are things that we think about all the time.
I can add a funny anecdote though,
Okay, go
because
for it.
we
Yeah,
we did it tonight.
yeah,
So we're talking about it being pervasive and personal, like omnipresent.
yeah.
We are the
Oh,
worst
so bad.
hearing impaired people on the planet when it comes to accommodating each other, which is kind of funny considering this is our work.
Mm-hmm.
We are champions of one of us
Yep.
leaving the room
Yep.
and the other one still talking. We do
Talking
it all
through
the time.
talking through
All
walls,
the
that
time.
doesn't work.
And all the time. Like he walks away, you're making a cup of coffee a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
on the other side of the wall in the kitchen. And I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, that conversation just dropped. When is one of us going to realize that we can't hear the other one? We have the worst
Yeah,
hearing
it's
impaired
bad.
etiquette ever.
It's bad.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we are. It's a work in progress.
Yes, yes. So if I'm going to edit the captions for
Sure.
this episode, there's going to be some overlap in our speech and who's
Yeah.
talking. And it will be very interesting to see our three names keep popping up in the dialogue for the
Yeah.
captions, if for people that use closed captioning like the three of us do. But
Yes.
love it. Love those answers. Julie, Brad, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
Thank
taking
This
the
was
you.
time to
great.
meet with me and be the very first guest of season two of
Quite
Definitely
the honor.
Talking. You have been so much fun and it's been so educational as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for
This
this
was great.
chance.
This was great. We
Absolutely.
appreciate
And
your
remember,
time.
everyone, Down the Tubes Productions, you can find them
Mhm.
online. You can find them on all the different social media channels. Find them on YouTube. And they're great. You need to check out their
Oh, thank
podcasts and
you.
videos for sure. That's how I
Thank you so
found them.
much.
But
Thank
all
you.
right. Well, thank you, our special guests, and thank you, audience, for tuning in to this episode. We will see you next time on Definitely Talking. Take care.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.